first.
I'm Darren Dunstan and Maximilian Pegasus from Yugioh.
Hi. Darren, that's right. Darren Dunstan, ladies and gentlemen. Hi, my name is Greg Abbey. I voiced Tristan on the original, and YUSEI in 5Ds, and Raphael in the 2003 Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Let's go.
I'm Dan Green, known for Yugi and Yami Yugi, and Knuckles, and U2, and a few assorted others, and I'm cosplaying as Maximilian Pegasus' character.
Well, that's awesome. I mean, we're really glad to have you here. We're excited, and we got a few questions we want to ask you. So one, I'm going to start off, and then we'll turn it out at the end of the show. How did you connect with the character you voiced, and did you incorporate any of your own personality into them? Maybe one at a time. You want to go?
Go ahead, Darren.
I like the comedy options for Pegasus. That there was an opportunity to try to infuse some humor, even though he was doing dastardly things, and I think that the writers were a huge part of that, of course. And I think he sort of is a little more my brand of humor, the drier, sort of witty. He thinks he's funny, like I think I'm funny. Yeah, so that was totally up my alley.
You both drink juice a lot?
Good promo, good promo. Yeah.
How about you, Greg?
Thanks for asking, Darren. I mean, the only thing that really comes to mind with Raphael is I could take out some of my own anger within the character, and that was kind of nice. And I even remember, I've told this before, but I do literally think the day that I auditioned for Raphael and came into the booth and they were like, all right, New York, he's got a temper, he's angry. I'd had a fight with my girlfriend, who's now been my wife forever. And so I brought my anger against her into the and I think it actually helped me get the part. So I would say that, yeah, getting
And
to
she
play.
pissed you off before every record just to
Yeah, exactly. So I was like, honey, if I want to keep this show going, tell me, let's fight.
You purposefully didn't do the dishes. I think one of the great fun things about acting, anybody else do some acting? Anybody?
Partially.
A little bit? Okay, so, but you find that part of what's fun is that even though you may not resemble the character emotionally or psychologically, you can still find something to connect with and resonate with and live through. And there's so many different wonderful forms of creative expression, but I think what's really wonderful about acting in particular is that you experience those things in a way you don't in any other form. And when you experience it, the audience experiences it as well. So I don't really identify with either Yami or Yugi, but I feel much more like a Yugi than a Yami. Actually, Greg's uncle once said something very wise that I held on to. Greg's uncle is also an actor. And he said, you get to have the character's strengths and weaknesses. And sometimes, I was so scared. There was this performance I had to do. I was fresh out of college. Greg and I went to college together. And it was like I was on Broadway. It was my first time performing on Broadway. And I was scared, so scared that I was going to mess up. But then I held on to that phrase. And I was like, oh yeah, the character I'm portraying is confident. I can fake that. I'll just lean into that for the next couple hours.
Awesome, great. I mean, listen, that's just amazing. Getting to hear those stories as well, especially going to college together. Didn't even know that. That's awesome.
Yeah. We have degrees in acting.
That's right.
What was your most memorable or challenging scene you had to voice, and why? Like from the series, is there any like challenging scene that you thought, this might be a challenging scene today?
I mean, Tristan had to be a robot monkey. And as everyone knows, sometimes it's hard to understand. When you're dubbing by yourself, you're not. Turtles was prelay, so we'd go in, we do the whole episode, you have context for everything, you know exactly what was going on.
That's when you record before it's animated.
Right, right. With Yugioh, you're dubbing it, so you're just kind of seeing your part. And what I remember is that he was a robot monkey. I could never, what is happening? It went on for episodes, and it was kind of hard to do. So that's the first thing that I was kind of ready when Tristan was no longer a robot. I was like, oh my, he's still a robot monkey?
I guess I think of the first time I had to do like a younger character. I definitely sort of stayed in the older pocket for a long time, and then a show that nobody watched called Chaotic came on. I had to be a kid, and like it was new territory, and I guess locally I kind of knew what I had to do, and it was just getting used to sitting up there and also being able to be malleable, to convey different emotions while still having that sort of tenory, brighter tone. So there was a learning curve to that for sure.
Yeah, challenging.
Yeah.
Yeah, when you're working in a different part of your vocal range, high or low, your pitch, so much of how we express how we feel has to do with how we go from up and down, how we inflect things. And when you're saying, okay, well, I can no longer use my lower notes, it makes it a little harder to be as expressive as you might normally want to be. But I've never played a high-voiced character, so that's all just guesswork as far as
Trico.
There you go. But yeah, finding the placement for Yugi and working with different directors, the actor is just trying to do their best to satisfy who they're working with. So you'll notice that Yugi's voice goes up in certain seasons, Yami's voice goes down, and it's just like whatever, okay, whatever you want. But the hardest thing about being in Yugi's register was yelling at that pitch, and then also trying to be expressive. Because typically when you're being aggressive, your voice actually goes up, right? And so when you're already up, it was like, well, how do I go up from up?
By the way, shout out to the back room. We got 2 cosplayers.
Yeah.
Nicely done. Love it. Love to see it. I gotta ask, because I'm not sure if you've actually ever played the Yu-Gi-Oh game in real life. Have you ever tried taking a chance at it?
Yeah, I suck at it. Yeah.
Same. Yeah.
My son, who's older now, but from like 10 to 14, he was pretty obsessed with the game and actually a great player. He built me a deck, which I think I figured out for like 2 weeks. He kicked my ass, but other than that, and then I retired, I think, after like 2 weeks. 2 weeks of kind of understanding the game.
And then you turned into a monkey. That was weird.
I'm Tristan. What's happening?
Can you share any funny or interesting behind-the-scenes stories that you've had from recording sessions? Do you have any
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So I direct as well, and I was directing Tara Sands, who plays Mokuba. We were working on another show nobody watched called Fighting Foodons. Oh, good.
The one guy.
That was Thanks. 8.001 in the ratings. We got one. Anyway, so when you're in the booth, you're by yourself. So Tara was, locked in through the sliding door, and I had my head down. I was making a note, and I heard this noise, and I looked up, and she was on the floor.
Oh.
What?
Right. So, and then she claimed she was pushed, which
By the
is
microphone?
impossible. And anyway, so she somehow had tripped over the cords and totally bit the dust. So to me, that was funny.
Darren likes physical humor, so.
One of the funniest things that was the result of that work, an engineer that we would almost always work with, Joe Shalik, who we call Joe Vegas, because he likes to gamble. So he would record all of our outtakes. If you said anything in the booth, you had to understand that there's a great possibility that Joe would catch it. So at holiday parties, I think notably at Christmas parties, he put together a mash cut of everyone's outtakes. And it's really fun when you consider how much of a kid show we were doing and how much profanity was recorded in that movie. Because when you're trying to match, when you're trying to dub, you're trying to fit your performance into something that's, has a predetermined rhythm. So part of what you're doing is matching the flaps is a term we use, exactly. And then when you have to, cram in an understanding of not only what your card does, but it's pronounced orichalcos, and you're like, what? That fast? And so yeah, you have a lot of lines that are like, I play super super, but I know what that is. That was first ones.
Okay, how, or do you, or no?
No, I'm good.
Yeah, I never flubbed, so I'm not on those rules.
You've heard about it.
Okay, how has working on Yugioh influenced your career or personal life? Or if not Yugioh, maybe another animated series?
I mean, I've always said this. If anything, it's more, when I think about that time and all of us working together, the shows were great. It was awesome to voice the characters, but we all became very good friends. And I don't think that's...
remained good friends.
Yeah, and I don't think that's always common. And it was just a time in a lot of our lives, people hadn't settled down necessarily or had kids. Like, we were going out all the time. And it wasn't just the actors, it was, you know, the engineers, the directors, the people who worked behind the scenes. It was like a pretty amazing group of people. So I just always look back. It's like a 5-year run of just very fondly in more of the people. So when I think about Yugioh, more than the actual show, I just think about the community of people that worked on it. Because it was this amazing collection of artists,
Yeah.
talented,
Writers.
yeah, everyone.
Graphic artists.
Yep.
Yeah.
Awesome.
No, you guys
Well,
can't.
yeah,
You
you
guys
wanna-
can't share about that.
I have something to say, but what do you think?
Yeah, you go.
Well, so very often I'm asked, what's your favorite role? And as an actor, that's really hard to choose because part of your job as an actor is to embrace every character that you portray. So I rephrase that question to the characters I owe the most to. And by far, that's Yugi and Yami, partly because, for reasons that you'd expect. You know, I got to be part of something that so many people liked for so long. It's really mind-blowing to me that we're in this situation today where we actually get to meet you. It's incredible. But all of that aside, if I hadn't done that show, I wouldn't have met the woman who became my wife, and I wouldn't have the kids that I have today. So, it's hard to beat that, you know? It's all because of Wayne Grayson.
That's true, actually.
Yeah, Wayne and I quickly became friends because we have a lot of shared interests. As he described it, he was like, we were hanging out at one of these gatherings that we were at. He was like, oh, so what do you think of Star Wars? And we were just like, talking about all the oh, did you ever catch Star Trek? Do you happen to read comic books? And that was a whole other thing. Anyway, so he was having his birthday party. He invited me, so kind. And he was dating the younger sister of this woman that became my wife. So I get there, and then there's Wayne, and he's standing by a birthday cake, and right next to him is this very lovely woman who's the younger sister, right? And I was like, oh, nicely done, Wayne. Down at the other end of in the room, at the other end of the table was this smoking hot blonde, and I'm like, okay, that's out of my league. So I was just politely, you know, enjoying the party, but that smoking hot blonde came up to me later and said, hey, are you the voice of Yami Yugi? And I said, well, yes, not good. Yeah. All went from there.
Can you top that?
Nope.
Do you want to try?
Nope.
Okay, well, so the next question. Do you have any unique warm-up activities, like when you're voice acting, like before?
Scotch?
So Greg and I both went to Mason Gross School of the Arts, and it's at the time it was a conservatory training actors classically. A classically trained actor actually has a certain set of requirements. You have movement, you have voice, you have acting. So anyway, we do have a lot of vocal warm-ups that we could pull on from that. So yeah, I mean, I just basically warm up the actual. I don't necessarily have to do articulation exercises, but no matter what people say. Just getting the air moving through your system. Yeah. So.
Depends on the character and the time
Sure.
of day. Like,
Yep.
I remember Pegasus always kind of had to have like a good tone, like a pure.
Yeah.
It couldn't be like raspy or scratchy.
No,
at
no.
10 a.m. when you'd been out the night before. Like, I remember one night at the next session, it took me a while, and then I felt horribly, and so from then on, I got up extra early. And
Sure.
or other like Splinter, you could.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you can be as raspy as you need to be. So.
Awesome. Well, if their series were to continue, or like a reboot, what would you hope for your character's story life to be? Like, continue on, I guess.
That Tristan would finally get to duel. I mean, think I mean, he cheered them on every day. Like Joey, be like, thank you. That's basically all I said for 7 seasons. Anyway, I mean, to be honest, all joking aside, I would love to, and I jokingly talked, there's a woman who works at Konami, and I half jokingly say, like, you should reboot the original series. We're still all around. We'd love to do it. I would love to do the show again, so, yeah, anyway.
And another movie.
Yeah.
Another movie would be good. A little over a year ago, or maybe not, maybe it's more like 2 years. But anyway, so on social media, I was still pretty new to social media, and I put up a minute from the manga where Kaiba steals the blue eyes from Yugi, and I put up a panel so you're going from right to left like you read a manga, and of course Eric's doing all of Kaiba's lines and I'm doing all of Yugi's lines. So we would love to do the whole manga that way with the original cast, and that way you get to see the story that the animation was based on. So it's familiar, but it's also very different. So it's still kind of fresh, and I think that would be a fitting tribute to Takahashi, Sensei Takahashi, who passed away a couple of years ago so heroically, so valiantly. So that's what I would like to see. But if there were a continuation, I'd be curious to see what Yugi's like as an adult, or more of an adult. And I don't think that they should bring the Pharaoh back. I think it's poignant and meaningful that he stays gone. You know, you can do a flashback, sure. You know, I remember that conversation I had with the Pharaoh, and whatever, but don't actually bring it back.
No, I understand completely. Is there a movie that maybe we should know about that may be coming out soon? Or?
There was, I heard a rumor circulating a month or so ago. It's just a rumor.
What's the rumor? Okay.
Or is that what I was told to say?
I'm going to ask an off-topic Yu-Gi-Oh question, just for me, and then I'll turn to everybody else that wants to ask questions. I've heard rumors of Chaotic coming back. I've heard Brian Gannon actually brought it back from 4Kids and he's been trying to work on it. Would you voice again for the show?
Sure. Sure. Absolutely not.
Awesome. I'm going to turn, if anybody has questions.
Outside of Dimension, I think that was like when Yugi was like 18 years old and the Pharaoh's been gone for a while, and then like the end of the movie, the Pharaoh comes back in like yellow form or something, kicks Kaiba's ass. I think, I don't know. But I don't.
There's actually a character called Agami.
Sorry.
But Agami came sort of interrupted. So he was
Corrected,
first.
got it.
Any questions? Questions?
So back to what you guys were saying about voicing again. I know rights are an issue and everything. But there's the original Yu-Gi-Oh series from Japan, like the Season 0 is what it's called.
We've heard of it, yeah.
Would you guys ever think about dubbing that?
Sure, of course.
And can you dub that?
Not legally, without the rights holder's permission, and that needs to be respected. But I think we all feel that we'd be happy to return to the characters. Yeah.
How can we start that?
I don't really know how. I don't know how responsive the powers that be are to fan desires, but it wouldn't hurt to express that that's what you would want. And I think Greg makes an excellent point that we're all still. I mean, we're obviously much older, but we can all still do the voices. So yeah, so yeah, I think that would be really fun to do.
Thank you all.
Sure.
Awesome. Yeah, I'll go in the back.
When you have to voice like an animal where there's no human reference, how do you decide on a voice for that? Is that something that the director comes with you for an idea for, or do you guys like look at the animal and then go from there?
It's a collaboration usually. Sometimes, and it depends on the actor too. Some actors are very good at just coming up with voices or have strong opinions on things, and sometimes the director needs to guide them. Or even this morning we were talking about a character and you're like, this is what I was thinking. What are you thinking?
Yeah, we
like,
were. Yeah.
There's a collaboration with that, and I guess what the producer wants too is another factor.
For sure. But you also get a sense visually, what kind of sound you imagine that animal would make. Entei is very lion-like.
And he talks.
And he also talks, but he also growls. He got the best of both worlds.
Yeah, go ahead.
So, do you guys have a favorite like monster from the show? Like, it doesn't. I know it might be like like Yugi, like Dark Magician, or it might be something else. But do you have like a specific like favorite monster that you?
I mean,
Tristan's favorite card.
yeah, Tristan, Cyber Commander. Yeah, I mean it's on the nose, but Stardust Dragon's a great monster, great card. So I would say I like Junk Warrior, sure.
I liked all the tunes. Thought that was a
Tunes.
fit for him.
That was a great spin. Yeah, I relate to it through the characters I portray, so Dark Magician would be the most relevant. But I mean, what, Obelisk is, or Exodia and Slifer, those aren't cool? The Winged Dragon of Rise isn't cool? Of course they are. And I was big into the Egyptology even before I got into Yugioh, so that was fun for me.
Marshmallow?
Oh, there was a lot of dispute about how to pronounce that.
Which card?
Marshmallow.
Silent Swords in level 4.
Silent Swords in level 4. Lots of tongue twisters.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Beta the Warrior.
So
Magnet.
going back to what the lady right here was saying in terms of Dark Side Dimension.
Yeah.
Do you feel like they could have done a little bit better in terms of the ending? It left like a cliffhanger, which I didn't know.
Somebody doesn't like ambiguity.
I'm not. They left like a cliffhanger. I had like, did Kaiba pass away? So, in my sense, would you have felt like they should have changed it a bit, or did you like the way it just went into that?
I don't remember.
You don't have a I like the ambiguity. I also, on social media, put up a premise of what would happen next. And I interpreted it as, not that Kaiba went back to the past, although I get that interpretation, but I interpreted it as he found some way of breaching into the afterlife.
Yeah.
Right? Or the beyond. So other people, I'm not crazy for reading that. So, yeah, but I mean, I understand what you mean. I understand you would have preferred something that had more of a conclusion. Right, yeah, I get it. I think it's interesting. I think it's more interesting as a question than an answer.
I know you've been. Yeah, go ahead. Yep.
Yeah, I was gonna ask. I had a thought. You had to do like a episode where something happened. You guys ended up swapping. Yugi and the gang ended up swapping bodies. Who swaps with who? Who swaps with who?
Oh, that's a great question.
Like a Freaky Friday. Yeah,
The Freaky Friday.
Cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
Me and Joey, I feel like would be.
I think it would. Oh, yeah.
What if, because I think
weird.
Tristan and Joey would be great. What if we all swap with Joey? Throughout the episode, we just hop around Joey.
Let's call it Joey-O.
Joey-O. Oh my God. Is anyone writing this down? Come on.
It's not Freaky Friday, it's Jubilant Joey.
That's a fun question.
Oh. So this is a question for you. You sang a song for Music to Duel By, I believe. What was your experience like singing as Pegasus, and was it difficult?
Jared is a highly accomplished singer. He really is. This
You
is
can't tell from.
No.
Was that the song with Erica?
No. This was way back when they made a Yu-Gi-Oh album in like the mid 2000s, early 2000s. Yeah,
Because
and
we
like,
all need music to duel by.
and there's
wasn't a
some
marketing
tracks
thing.
that Eric wrote. Eric, who plays Kaiba, wrote some tracks on the song. So
That's
those were
right.
engineers.
Eric's on.
And then who wrote my song was this team of full-time music employees that they were at 4Kids. And no, they made it easy because they. John Siegler, I had done the Pokemon Live tour with, so like he knew my voice inside out. He knew what key to put it in. He knew what notes I don't go to, and also I think understood that Pegasus would be kind of speaky about it, and so yeah. So I guess the hardest thing was sometimes I want to sing too much, and they'd be like, "Why don't you just speak that line?" And it came up with a nice sort of final result that felt acty but also kind of singing at the same time. So
Face up or face down?
it was super
We'll
fun.
probably take like 2 more questions.
So I know some some people have asked about Dark Side of Dimensions and like your experience about that. I wanted to ask about your experience with Bonds Beyond Time.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yes. Scandalous, wasn't it? It was, I mean, I love the idea that you were able to bring all of those different chapters of the franchise together. That just seemed like so much fun, like a no-brainer. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with what Dan said. It was just cool to have the protagonists together, and that would be really cool. I would love it. I'm kind of surprised actually they haven't done something like that again. So it was great to have them all together.
Sorry.
Yeah.
One last question.
Alright. I had a question for Dan.
Okay.
This is a bit of a weird one. Do you ever just like...
I'm pretty weird, so...
I just remember because I came across this randomly when searching on IMDb. Do you remember doing a voice for, like, the Yugi voice for a PSA about marijuana?
And I was able to find it on YouTube.
Yeah.
And, I believe that it was Yami.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It was like, don't smoke weed?
Yeah.
What was
The anti-drug media campaign.
Yeah, but what was the catchphrase? Do you remember?
It was just like, I just remember the biggest thing of her just being like, I'm not at the top of my friends would just be disappointed in me if I was not at the top of my game. Or like,
Well,
Julian is that was it.
What was it?
You're right. It was Julian is my anti-drug. You're right.
Dueling is my anti-drug. You know, I've never had marijuana, so that you should avoid it.
Well, I just want to say thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Adam.
Yeah, thanks, man. And Rick, we all here appreciate you coming to the panel. And
saying this way. I think when you're waiting in line, it's really easy to think that the person on the other side of the table is the important one. We're nothing without you. So, thank you. We appreciate everything. And sorry I farted. I'm getting out of here.